difficult conversations are part of the job. You're not going to avoid them. You've got to learn how to deal with them.
You're listening to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast, powered by Affiverse, ultimate destination for affiliate program news, insights, growth opportunities, partnerships, and affiliate program strategy. Welcome to this week's Affiliate Marketing Podcast with me, your host, Leanne Johnston, and I have the lovely Tara Alvarez Garcia joining us on this podcast this week. And we're going to be talking about difficult conversations, which is something that affiliate managers and affiliates as well often have to do in the kind of day-to-day of their jobs. But it's always something that either fills us with dread because we don't know how to approach the situation, with a human and empathy mindset, but also because it's really difficult to have those kind of conversations, especially around commercials and, getting value for your business. So Tara, welcome to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a performance and leadership coach, working with lots of different leaders in competitive markets such as iGaming and online marketing.
Thank you very much for having me. I've got a background in marketing and commercial roles, so I spent a good 15 plus years over there. Favorite part of my job was always being with people, leading teams, my one-to-ones, career progression plans. And I feel like coaching sort of naturally found me. I didn't realize I was actually coaching throughout my roles when I was given people to manage who were not doing jobs that I used to do before. So I had a way to tell them how to do a job because I couldn't do the job that they were doing. So I had no choice but to coach. And to be honest, I just fell in love with coaching. For 4 years, I wanted to do it. And after 4 years, I plucked up the courage, had a very difficult conversation with my husband and said, I'm going to go all in. And I've been doing this now full time for 2 years and absolutely loving it.
That's amazing. So it's a natural transition that happened for you from leading people, managing people in very high pressured corporatized environments that led you to kind of lead with your passion and your purpose, which is something that I love digging into, even though it's not specifically related to affiliate marketing, but we're going to make it related to affiliate marketing today. So, okay, I think the best place to start here before we get into the nuts and bolts of handling difficult conversations, which is really what we're going to be talking about today, is how do you personally define the difference between managing in performance marketing and leading in performance marketing? Because many people listening to this, they're either aspiring to get to that manager level where they're managing a team, or they're already leading a team of affiliate managers or partners in a program. So what do you think the difference is between managing and leading?
So I've done both. So I've managed within marketing and I've led within marketing. And the way I like to look at the difference is if you just think of a car and you've got an engine in the car, and the managing people is getting that engine moving. It's well-oiled. It's a well-oiled machine. You've got your water and you've got all your techie engine skill stuff going there. The leader is taking that car to where it needs to go. And that's what happened to me as well. So I was managing people who were doing events and sponsorships, all the stuff I could do, and I could tell them how to do it. But then when I was actually leading was when I had larger departments, sub-departments of roles. I had no idea what to do, but I knew the vision of the company. I knew the budget, the strategy, and that's when I stepped into a leadership role.
And it really is a mindset shift that we all go through in our career, because from doing the doing to directing the doing takes a certain skill set as well. And some of that we're going to talk about in relation to leading people, which is really what we do as affiliate managers. We're working with multiple different partners in a program. We're leading those partners to deliver to goals. And it can be a very, very stressful situation. So we work in high pressure. We have targets to meet. We have partner friction. Not everybody's always going to be, your friend and a really great partner to work with, but you still have to do those commercial trade-offs. And we often have to be always on in this industry. And now more so than ever with the kind of, integration of AI into everyday workforce, we're feeling the pressure to be always on and to be learning and to be pushing ourselves to do better and to move faster, which kind of leads to burnout. And this was a topic that we spoke about quite a lot before we got on here. How do you coach people to avoid this actually happening to them? Like, what are some of the coaching directives that you can give to people listening to this podcast right now that might be feeling they're getting to that point of burnout?
So I think one thing to really keep in mind is if you're always on and always reactive, you're actually not efficient you know how it is. We've got Slack, Teams, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Oh my gosh. Being always on is not getting better if it's going to keep going more and more and more. And I think burnout is something we're hearing about loads in recent years. And there's more awareness than ever before. But it's got to start with you taking the ownership and decision to say, enough is enough. These are my boundaries. This is my priorities, and working through those sorts of bits.
That actually means taking responsibility for your own time as well, which I think a lot of affiliate managers, they think is a weakness, and it actually isn't. It's a strength, because for you to be a really good affiliate manager to the partners that you're managing in your affiliate program, you have to be able to give them your best. And when you are burnt out, you're not giving anybody your best, and certainly not yourself either. And it extends into your family, your friends, everybody that, is connected to you in your life. I want to get into the kind of softer moment now. We're doing this quite quick in. So if you guys are still with us, it's great that you are kind of leaning into this episode. But I want to talk about something that every affiliate manager faces, which is the difficult commercial conversations that need to happen when a campaign doesn't go right. And when there's big money involved and, a lot of pressure to deliver, maybe the partner isn't delivering, incrementality. Maybe they haven't delivered what they said they would. Maybe there's been a discrepancy between the value of the CPA that comes back from the campaign, but expectations are ultimately misaligned and results are not being met. It is the conversation that everybody dreads. We all do. We never want to sit down across the table from a partner or a colleague or a teammate and have a really difficult conversation. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of how should we prepare ourselves mentally before we actually sit down and need to have that conversation with the respective other person.
Okay, so I think difficult conversations are part of the job. You're not going to avoid them. You've got to learn how to deal with them. And I often like to use things that we learn in coaching can be applied to your personal relationships. So, me with my husband. And the way I look at it is, if me and my husband are having a little bit of an argument, I try to go in with the mindset that it's us against the problem. So if you've got a commercial deal, it's not you against the person across the table, it's we. So I would go in armed. I would always be prepared. You do your research, you go in well prepared for the meeting. You go in knowing what outcome you want for that meeting. What does success look like after 1 hour? And it's a we problem. So we have this data. I would go with the facts. We have this data right in front of us. What can we do? It's a we, not you. What can we do to get through that problem together? So I know it's never easy to have those conversations, but I think the more you beat about the bush and go around it, it just gets worse. It looks flaky. You end up probably having to have the conversation the second, third, or fourth time again. I will just be very direct. It always wins, even if you go in with the good intentions. Why are you having that conversation?
I reached for my pen because there was quite a lot that you unpacked there, and I think it's actually a really good step-by-step process. The first thing is to approach the problem collaboratively. So never make it about you or I. It's always about we. The second step is to come in prepared. So preparation is key to release the stress that goes with it, because if you know what the problem is, you know what the data is, you know exactly how or why or potentially when it went wrong, you can really streamline that conversation to the points that are relevant in order to find the solution. Because too often when we go into a difficult discussion with a partner, it's about blame. And solving a problem isn't actually about blame. It's about figuring out what the best solution is, using both of your input in order to find that result. So I love that. I love the fact that you say be prepared. What can you do when so say you've done that, say you've approached it with a we instead of an I, you've come, armed with the data. What do you do if the conversation still gets heated? Because whilst you can control what you're saying, you can't control what your affiliate or your partner or your client is saying. So what do you do when you start to sense that situation gets heated?
Okay, so when earlier we spoke about the burnout. So I think if you need to make time to think, but then I would say the second most important thing is the time to pause and to slow it down. So you take control, and especially in negotiations, when sometimes there's that awkward silence, you don't need to fill in the silence for them.
It's a massive skill to learn when you're a younger person and you're eager to resolve things. Because I know I'm thinking back to my own career. I used to be very proactive, very reactive, always trying to solve the problem before it was even a problem to start with. And a very good mentor of mine actually said the same thing that you did. They said, there's power in the silence. And sometimes letting it lie can open up an opportunity for subconscious thoughts to come through. And I would say, you have to be brave enough to experience it and to actually just hold the silence for that space, because it does require strength. It's not a sign of being weak.
Absolutely. And that's both in conversations and over emails. You get an email that I've got to get back to them straight away. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like, I'm a coach and I'm an expert. And I screwed up last week. Last week, I was so reactive to a client of a new project we're working on. And I was like, oh my, I have to get back to them. And I sent them an email on Friday at 7 p.m. in response. What was I doing on Friday, 7 p.m.? And on Sunday, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I would have reworded it totally different. I would have put this different, but it happened. So I think it's just very important to have that high sense of awareness and just check yourself. I'm going to find time to think and I'm going to pause and take control.
So the other thing is do you wait until the relationship breaks, or do you actually start stepping up a little bit before the relationship breaks? Because when things go wrong, performance dips, sometimes you can send an email and go, hey, I noticed that the numbers were down this month or this week. How do you structure those types of conversations so that you're not leading to a blame conversation, which eventually then leads to a difficult conversation?
No, you must keep on top of this in advance as possible. Raise the flag as early as possible. We wait until something screws up. There's the damage control and then the problem and then the over-explaining. And besides the blame, something I see often from my clients is besides blame, there's also like shame or embarrassed. I'm really embarrassed. I have to speak to this client because their numbers are down. And then I would say, okay, why are you embarrassed? Oh, because their numbers are down. Okay, why are their numbers down? And when we get through it, I'm like, you're not really embarrassed. So it's just, we just need to let's get the emotions out of it and let's get facts and put on our business objective hats on.
So asking the question why is quite a powerful tool, yeah? And asking that why a few times will actually give you a separate answer.
The first answer to the why is normally not the right answer. So then I have to keep asking again, but how come? Okay, and what would happen this? Okay, and why that? And then you end up getting to the root of the problem, which is not the embarrassment or the shame.
But that also means you need to take time. Often we rush in to try and solve things without actually taking the time to prepare and ask ourselves, what actually do we need to be talking about in this conversation? There's nothing wrong with, testing out a conversation with a colleague before you have to have a conversation with an affiliate.
We're going to talk about AI. Use ChatGPT and tell it, argue back with me. Prepare for this meeting and argue back.
And I think that is the important thing about controlling commercial conversations that are difficult, is that you need to always be a step ahead of that conversation and understand which way it can actually move. And that's part of the preparation process that you were talking about. Now, you spoke about creating thinking space, which, for people like me who work in the affiliate industry, thinking space is like a luxury. It really is, because you're busy all day. You're flying by the seat of your pants. You're building the plane and flying it at the same time. More often than not, you just started to launch a promo and somebody from the marketing team says, okay, yeah, that promo is over. Go change it over with everybody else that, hasn't picked it up yet. So it is a reactive by nature type of role that we work in. There's dashboards, Slack messages, urgent things that we need to do. So how do you carve out intentional time to think strategically instead of constantly reacting? Like, what are some of the tips that you give to people that come to you for coaching?
Okay, so that I often hear, it's a luxury. I wish I had time to think. And so I get it. But you know what? If you're in a leadership role, it's a necessity. It's part of your role, the time to think, the time to question things. So in terms of finding time, that is entirely up to the individual. What works for one might not for the other. So I've got clients who are very happy to wake up at 5 a.m. So from 5 to 8 a.m. and they say, okay, I know I'm not getting any messages. My kids are still asleep. Whatever's going on, I'm going to crack on and get my stuff done. I have some others who we've agreed in coaching, and then we make sure we check up every month. Okay, how's that working for you? Tuesdays and Thursdays, their teams are aware, unless the building is on fire, between 9 and 12, you do not disturb them. It's also, I have many people telling me, oh, but I go on holiday and my teams don't stop messaging me. Oh, okay. What do you do when your team messages you? Oh, I respond. Okay, so if I was your team, I'm going to keep messaging you. I think we have to take some responsibility and ownership for the state of our working daily life.
And also the state of our mental well-being. In an always-on culture where everything is at your fingertips, you can set a campaign live and within seconds you can tell whether there's clicks happening. So, we need to take ownership of our time, because our time is valuable and our mental health is valuable too. And I don't think we talk about that enough in this industry, and how quickly burnout can happen when you're not taking care of yourself. So with clients that you have dealt with, because burnout is obviously, one of the things that people normally do come for coaching for, what are some of the things that you recommend if they are feeling like they're getting to the point of burnout? What are some of the things that you recommend they do to either mitigate that from going any further or to get help? Like, how do you recommend that they take charge? Because it's difficult to do that when you're in that space, when you're feeling burned out, when you're feeling like you always have to be on, there's no way out. How is there like a simple trick or tool that you can share with the audience here to slow it down, take stock, put a plan in place?
So some of the most successful clients I have are the ones coming to me when there is not an issue. So some of them come in, they say, "Oh, I don't know what to discuss today." I'm like, "Okay, what are we celebrating? What's working well? What are your plans for the next 6 months? If you and I were having a coffee in December, what would we be discussing that went well?" It's where clients come to me when, we've hit rock bottom and burnout. That's when we need to go backwards and do on damage control. And sometimes when you're in that funk and in that burnout, you're not even in the right frame of mind to be thinking and making decisions. Typically, when we're in burnout, this is, I just want to quit. I want to do something totally different. I can't even answer my emails. I can't think. I can't get there. So I would, if anyone's listening to this in a senior position, if you're listening to this and burnout doesn't affect me, okay, we'll just question what's working at the moment and how can you protect what's working. Burnout often doesn't come from working 60 hours a week. It's typically from the misalignment with values or what we're doing. So I like to look at, I hate the word time management, but I like to look at energy management. What do you get excited for? What would you do for free? Like I would have coached for free. I remember wanting to walk into McDonald's and coach someone. So what would you do for free? And then how much time are you spending doing that? And keep on top of it. Whilst now I'm in a really good state of mind, in 6 months, I know if I have to do less of this, oh shoot, I'm really not going to get happy.
Yeah. So really taking time to be cognizant about what is actually going on in your life right now, because you might not be feeling burnt out now, but you might be on the path to burnout already. So thinking about how do you split your time in the day? Do you actually give yourself time for freedom? Now, I have recently become a disciple of this, and it sounds horrible. I launched this business and I pushed and hustled for 5 years nonstop. Okay. And then I got to the point where I was like, everybody said start a business and have a wonderful life and, be your own boss and all of this wonderful stuff. But all I'm doing is hustle. And I'm not actually making time for the things that I enjoy. And about August last year, I have exactly done just this, taken your advice. And now I walk 5 kilometers every morning on the beach without fail. And I cannot explain the clarity that it has given me in terms of where to focus my time, what things are urgent, what things can be delegated to my team. And I almost feel like I've been stepping into that leadership role. Like I've been in the manager role for the last 5 years and I'm now starting to step up into that leadership role. And it really is a process. Like if you're listening to this podcast, it's not something you're just going to take away and do overnight. And it is a process of changing your coherent thinking of how you show up at work every day and how you show up for your partners every day.
Sometimes we're in a bit of a rut and workaholic mode because that's what the business dictates, or that's what my role dictates. As long as you're aware of it and you know, okay, I'm going to put a stop to it. Otherwise, what is it going to cost you?
It's self-accountability. I think that's what we need to learn as mature affiliate managers is self-accountability, to actually be responsible for managing yourself, because everybody in this industry is busy. Nobody's going to be asking you, how are you doing? They're going to be asking you, what's the numbers next week? Okay, so I know you're going to be sharing a really great piece of content that we'll be publishing with this podcast, the blueprint for handling a difficult conversation. And this doesn't need to be about you and an affiliate. It could be you and your boss. It could be you and your husband. It could be, whoever you need to have a difficult conversation with. Do you want to kind of walk us through that blueprint now? I think now's a good time to do a little bit of practical teaching.
Perfect. So I would always say we start with being very clear on what we want the outcome to be. The outcome is not walking in and I've got to say what I've got to say. I get it off my chest. Okay, done. Okay, what is the outcome I want? What does success look like? What do you want the other person to understand? What do you want the actions to be? I would make sure that you always prepare and we separate facts from emotions. There's no blame, there's no embarrassment. We've got to go in with the we mindset and we've got to go in wanting to solve the problem. I'm not walking in, all tough and here are the numbers, this is how bad you're doing, pointing fingers. I would go in as well, very curious and open-minded. So be ready to ask questions. Do some coaching. Ask the questions, the what, how, why, maintain the silence, take control. And at the end of any meeting, I would always say, what are the actions? What are the next steps? steps are you agreed? I hate it when someone's gone for a meeting and at the end they go, oh, so I think she said she's going to follow up. Yes. Okay. When and how is she following up? You have a meeting in the diary, or you're following up with notes? Are you sending an email? What's happening? What are the next steps?
I love that. So we will share this blueprint with everybody that they can download, but go in with a very clear structure, go in with a we mindset, as we discussed, really talk about what the outcome of this conversation needs to be, because the outcome isn't you telling them that there's a problem. They already know that there's a problem because they're coming to the meeting. So the outcome is, what do we do about the problem? And then being very prescriptive about what the next steps are. Because I actually sit in meetings like that, where I'm often in meetings and then at the end I'm like, so who's going to do what? I can't remember what we said. There's no accountability at the end of the meeting of who's actually going to take this conversation forward and who's going to action what piece next. What happens when you get to a point in a meeting where you don't think you're gonna be able to win? Like, what do you do in that circumstance where there just doesn't appear to be any way that you can end this conversation on a good note?
Okay, I would question, what is the cost? When you say you're not going to win, what does that mean exactly? And what's the cost if you don't win? And what's the win? Is the winning me getting my way in terms of the commercial deal? I would go in prepared from in advance. If this person across the table is not going to agree to what we need to do to turn these numbers around, okay, then what is the second part of a more difficult conversation that you need to have, that maybe we need to look at terminating the relationship? Come from a very, I would hate to have this conversation, but if we can't get anywhere, then perhaps this is where we're moving. I would be prepared for that and not do it in the spur of the moment.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because often we say things in the spur of the moment and later we don't really feel like we should have said it, and then we have to backtrack again, and that just makes an already difficult conversation even more messy. So how I would take that is have a plan A and a plan B.
Exactly. Be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so performance environments are emotionally taxing, as we know. Okay, we've discussed a lot of different circumstances and incidences of how you help to coach people, but how do you suggest that we maintain resilience, especially now when there's not a lot of clarity about what's going to be happening? I mean, yes, just yesterday, and I don't want to date this, but there was an article that I read, I think it was on Reuters, about the fact that Gartner estimates that in 2029, a lot of jobs are going to be obsolete because AI is able to do things that humans still need to do. But the flip side of that at the moment is also, don't underestimate human expertise. So how are you coaching people around this topic of, is my job still going to be relevant? And, what personal development practices should I be adopting right now?
So I love the personal development practices. I'm a huge fan of lifelong learning. So I think it's important, even leadership positions, when you have the time to think, because that's your responsibility and you've got to make the time to think. Whether that's going to conferences, signing up to newsletters, having your own unofficial board of advisors. They could be within your business, outside of the business, a coach, an industry expert. I think it's really important to keep on top of what's happening. And I know it's very uncomfortable, change, but I do also think what you can't change, accept. It's useless sitting down and, to just keep complaining about something or the pace of the industry or where things are going or this is taking over. Yes, it is. Accept it. What can you do about it?
So start problem solving your own problem, basically, by sitting down and instead of thinking about where are my skills going to be overtaken, think about where can I develop new skills. So a lot of younger affiliate managers that are coming into the industry, they're really worried about whether they're going to have careers in 2030, because a lot of the skills that they are now currently learning are fast being AI tools. So things like publisher recruitment, discovery, administrative functions. A lot of what I'm looking at right now from a leadership perspective as well is how do we adopt all of those tools, but still keep the human element that is much required, because we're dealing with people. Ultimately, people are still going to want to deal with people. They're not going to want to be, talking to a chatbot for every little incident or thing that happens on their program. So I think now's the time to dig deep, to get coached on how to actually transition through this next phase and to think about, what skill sets you want to be improving on in your career so that you can become a leader. Because a leader isn't going to be an AI expert. A leader is somebody that can actually manage people.
Exactly. I would say your personal skills are the best asset, whether that's communicating, difficult conversations, negotiations, stakeholder management. That's not going anywhere, regardless of what role you're in.
Okay, so let's give people 3 practical tips to end this podcast on that point. Like 3 practical leadership principles that somebody running an affiliate program today, especially in uncertain times, can and take away with them after listening to this episode.
say the difficult things early, be direct, address the issue at hand, very transparent, polite, but say the difficult thing early. Make the time to think. Thinking time is not a luxury. That's your responsibility in a leadership position. And something I need to take my own advice, but is slow down before reacting. Take control of your emotions or the conversation.
I love those 3 tips because everybody can implement them. It doesn't matter what level or skill set. They're 3 very practical grounding tips to handle any difficult situation or conversation that they might be facing, and also uncertainty in their careers. So thank you so much for being on this podcast with us. I know we're going to be sharing a really great blueprint that everybody can download for free. And then I think you've got an offer for everybody listening, haven't you?
Yes, I do. So I'm giving just 5 listeners an offer of coaching sessions with me. One-off coaching session, preparing for a difficult conversation, need a sounding board, whatever that is, for just 150 euros compared to my normal rates. So that's going out to 5 listeners, and there'll be a link here too.
Okay, amazing. So if you are struggling with something at the moment, you feel like you need a little bit of career coaching, a little bit of business coaching, leadership coaching, Tara is a fantastic person to speak to. She's offering a really great offer for you guys. And I hope that if somebody's listening and they need that support, that they'll take you up on this offer, because everybody can do with coaching in their business and in their lives. I know I've had many wonderful coaches that have helped me, and it's not a weakness, it's a strength to ask for help and to get guidance. Okay, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you very, very much.
I'm spending so many hours at my desk and I'm not seeing results. What am I doing wrong? That's one of the smartest questions you can ask. Listen to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast for a start, and go to affyversemedia.com for all the support, optimizations, and inspiration you'll ever need to scale your affiliate program to the stars. What's that website again? affyversemedia.com. affyversemedia.com. affyversemedia.com.